overview, Dan, I'll just shout out that Sunshine have been involved with the Connection as a school since 2017, perhaps even 2016. It's been a long journey, and certainly your deputy principal, Yvonne, and perhaps Tim went as well to the UK with the Connection back in 2017 or 2018. So a lot of involvement over the years. And they've been a great partner, and in the area in the west of Melbourne, where they are, strong sort of analogies and through lines with some of the school communities that different schools are joining us from today, which Dan will give us a bit of an overview of. So Dan, thank you very much. We'll hand over to you. Go for it.
Thank you, Nick. Just for anybody who's new to the Connection, I joined up 20 or the last few years, and it's been really, I guess, powerful in terms of how I've built my leadership in the school and as an educator. So thanks for the little intro. Yeah, it's been a great to be part of the Connection. Yeah, Yvonne is currently away today, so it'll just be me. But I think if I spoke to the context of my school story, yeah, the original or the theme is about how we develop our relationships with our parent community, and the last part was about technology. I think for our school, if we looked at things, the whole process on a continuum or a line, to even talk about the technology, I think our goal as a school is to build that relationship with parents, the parent community, with communication first before we can even reach technology. So it's great to see Nick and Erin just be flexible with that for today. So our story, I guess, leading up to today, I'd like to share what it was like when I started at the school in 2018. We were pretty much a traditional paper-based school. So when we talk about communication, I remember on the loudspeaker, the front office person would call out someone from each home group to come into the front office and collect an envelope with paper notices to send out to the parents. And yeah, most of the communication was either paper-based or just over the phone. So as we've, I guess, gone through, especially, I guess, the COVID lockdowns here in Victoria really pushed things forward. But in terms of the digital space and how we have to communicate now is changed quite a bit for our school, and we're still transitioning through that. So in terms of, I guess, doing things, communicating with our parents, we have to do things a lot more digitally now as well. Bit of background about a school. We've got about 50% of our families who speak English as a second language. So their primary language is so we have 50 different languages at our school, with the parents. So we have a high proportion of families that don't speak English as their first language. That's what I was meant to say. And I find that if we are communicating to the parents specifically, there is a lot of reliance on the students and their children to help with that communication as well, and as translators. And someone mentioned earlier this year, I think it was we have a program that connects with or tries to support our refugee students that come to our school. But they, one of the recommendations they had was that we should try to avoid using students as translators, because one, the information might be too personal, and two, you can't always, especially if it's about behavior, you can't always trust that what they're translating is exactly what you wanted to portray to the parents. So, so yeah, we've got that I guess hurdle of trying to build that bridge of digital communication with our families. Just recently, we've been working with a group to help translate our messages into different languages to help break down this barrier. As you can see on the slides here, this is if you're familiar with Compass, like a message that gets sent out. We've done it in multiple languages. I think this is about a parent-teacher interview night. And then we've asked this group to translate our letters that go out as well. So you can see that in the bottom with the attachments. So that's something that we've tried to bridge. Like I said, we've got over 50 different languages that our parent community um, have. So we haven't been able to reach all of them, but hopefully at least a strong proportion of them. Um, so next slide, please. So yeah, I guess in our journey, we're still at the stage where we need to identify, um, do some investigations, and the three key areas that we are thinking is, you know, we do understand that I guess, the level of engagement from our parents is low, but we want to know whether it's due to a language barrier, which we're trying to address with the translations just shown before, whether it's a technology barrier. I guess we're in a low socioeconomic area, and um, you know, not only are parents unable to afford technology, but possibly they're just not strong with their digital skills and digital literacy. So again, that's we're relying on students to help the parents with that. I think some of our students help the parents with their like their Compass account or their student management tool, and unfortunately, I think we have students who like to put in their own absences if because they have access to the parents' account. So that's something that we need to try to look deeper into. Or do parents just trust what we already do, and hence the low engagement data that we have. Um, so yeah, we would like to look into these areas a bit further, and then see, I guess, find a strategy to help increase our parent engagement, and hopefully there's some great ideas today for that. Also, next one, please. Yeah, so I guess I'd like to share, I guess, what our teachers are thinking. So part of our school survey, we asked staff, how well they trust the parents. So these two sets of data we've taken from the last few years, they are low, in my opinion, and I do believe that it's partly due to the lack of engagement from our parents in the community. So hopefully by um, I guess, improving the communication channels. We can see that staff are hearing a bit more from our parents, and hopefully this data can improve when we look at our teachers' trust in our parents. I might, yeah, not too sure if I'm stepping on Mitch or I think it's Sophie's toes when I talk about this section here. I thought I was going to go after the Lana Madeline Foundation, but just in case I can't sneak in a bit of time later, we've been working with the Lana Madeline Foundation with co-designing a new tool they have called the Digital Health Check. This is just some of the data that comes out of it. When we work with our students. So this is something I worked with one of my classes last week. A survey that the students do in class, call it Digital Health Check. And this one, I think, was about the content that they see online. So they complete the survey, and at the end of the survey, I get a summary of what the students are putting in. It's anonymous, but they all share their answers, and I think this is a great tool because we ended up discussing this at the once everyone's finished, and it just enables a lot of great conversations in terms of, I guess, the students' digital literacy and their digital health as well. So, sorry, Mitch and Co, if I'm stepping on your toes, but yeah, this is something that's been a really good tool, and just a bit of promotion for what they're doing. So thank you to that team. And yeah, I think that's that's it for me. Thank you.
Fantastic, Dan. Thank you very much. So we heard a few great nuggets of what the current practice considerations are for Sunshine there, and some of the challenges, particularly around the multilingual school community, and then what that means in terms of the realities for the school to try to work out, well, what does it mean when we are communicating these pieces through? Is it a language barrier? Is it just that they're saying, no worries, school, you get on with what you're doing, we're happy for you to do that? Or is it something altogether different? So what we'd love you to do now is to scan this Mentimeter code and give a bit of feedback for Sunshine College, just in terms of your reflections. And like you heard, there will be a perfect segue between the school's experience and an external organisation, namely Alana and Madeline Foundation, and a tool that they have co-designed with the school that's now, I believe, going to be rolled out further. So we'll hear about that next. So if you just pop into the Mentimeter and give a bit of feedback on that first slide, feedback for Sunshine College, that'd be great. Give you a minute to do that. Okay, as it comes through, I'm going to present the results and share those. So just give me a moment. I can see a few results coming in, including, let's try and do this the right way. Very insightful background, schools context, would be interested in running the digital health check for our families in our school. Well, you're going to hear all about that next. It's like, here's one of the information sessions we prepared earlier. Do you have any information from parents? Okay, great question. I'll circle back to you, Dan, with that question in a moment. Resonated with technology barrier with families and their lack of digital literacy. The digital health check for Alana, through Alana and Madeline Foundation for Families. I like the idea of a smart digit health check to evaluate the students' use of tech, form lessons about online safety. I like the ideas about having letters for all languages. And Dan, you can answer this when you come off mute in a second as well. I think maybe you had AI involved in supporting you with that, so I'll get you to answer that in a second. Great, yep, a few other pieces. Dan, do you have any information from parents' question, and have you used AI at all to support you in putting these pieces together?
I think I can quickly answer that AI. We, with the translations, we do ask the group to help with the translation of documents, but we have used AI to help with the quick brief messages. We find that if we do the translations or a big chunk of information through AI or even Google Translate, which is, I think, a form of AI, it's not accurate. And sometimes, like for our school, we have a high population of Vietnamese students. We've got staff here who can read through the translations and check over it for us, but we don't have staff who across all those other languages. So the use of AI is good, but can't guarantee its accuracy, and we don't have the people to just check, run their eyes over it to check for us if they are accurate or not. So yes and no with that. With the parents' engagement, I guess when we started, or literally during, I guess, my role in the digital literacy of the school and the parents, we've always had I guess, a Facebook page for the school in terms of delivering updates, messages, what the students are doing. So we'd like to think that is getting out there, but I think we're finding that as the population gets well, years go by, Facebook is starting to diminish in terms of its popularity. So that's something to consider as well. I think one indication where parent engagement with the school digitally is improving is with our permission notes. So it's something that kind of is an observation to be made. Like when we first, like I said, we were a lot of paper-based notes, but we've transitioned to a digital format in terms of getting permissions for students. At the start, it was very difficult for us. Let's say about 4 years ago, where we had very low numbers of parents providing permissions for excursions or events that come up. So I'd probably say about 10%. But now we're probably looking at at least 50 or 80% parents able to provide permissions digitally. So in terms of that engagement, I think that has increased. But I guess in terms of communicating their thoughts and I guess what some input to the school. If we talk about the parent survey that goes out every year, it's always been about the 10 to 15% of the parent community um, doing the surveys. We do find that those that do the survey, they do give us generally positive feedback, but it's only a small proportion of our school. And yes, I guess a part of our investigation is to find if we can improve that over the next few years.
Can I just clarify, Dan? George had asked in the chat, do we understand why the parents weren't engaged? Am I right in thinking like those three questions, you've got a hunch that it's sort of either language-based, technology-based, or sort of that trust relational-based, and part of your work at the moment is sort of working out which of those three, or a combination of. Is that the work? I think you don't quite know the answer at the moment, but that's the work you're doing. Am I correct?
Yes, absolutely correct. Yeah.
Yeah.
We've taken the strides to do the translations like this year, pretty much. Hopefully that will show improvements in the parent survey. And if that works, then we can try and see if we can tackle any technology or issues. Yes, skills as well for the parents.
Fantastic. And last question from Daryl. Have you tried surveying parents at parent-teacher evenings and times when lots of families are in the school? So how do you find that piece with families getting into the school, Dan?
I think we've tried doing surveys a couple of years ago. It's still, I guess with parent-teacher interview nights, it's the same story each year as well. We're really high with the year 7, but then once they get a bit older, it just really drops off. So in terms of, I guess, I think there has been a little increase in the number of parent-teacher or the parents that come to our parent-teacher interviews, but still a very similar story over the last few years. And we can definitely try a survey again soon for those that do come.
And that segues nicely into what we're going to hear from Auburn West, or some of the work that I know Auburn West are doing around getting parents across the threshold through their learning conversations, and I know a lot of the alumni schools have been working on that. But I do also want to acknowledge that I appreciate, and I think you guys tell us every time, it is very different in the secondary context. Like that being able to grab the parents at the gate and have a conversation, and so I appreciate that. That's a complexity.
Absolutely.
And I'm going to hand back without taking a breath for more, because I think we could just carry on, couldn't we?
Absolutely.
And
Yeah. So thank you so much, Dan. Can we give Dan a jazz hands and thumbs up and signs of appreciation? And the beauty of having the Alana and Madeline Foundation on to segue into the work they've done there and to highlight some of the tools that they've got that we've heard a very practical, school-based, grounded perspective from Dan on, is to help us to think about how we leverage off the expertise, because we can't be experts in everything, can we? So I'm really excited to be introducing, I think it's Mitch that's going first. Give me a thumbs up if that's right, Mitch. Awesome. From the Alana and Madeline Foundation. I won't give a full bio as I don't have one in front of me. So Mitch, I'll let you do your own description of who you are and what you do and how you do it. And then we're going to have the privilege of not only hearing sort of a high-level overview now from Mitch and his colleague Sophie, but also to do a bit of a deep dive after this session into a primary focused and a secondary focused session to learn more about the tools. So Mitch, without any further ado from me, over to you. Cheers.
Thank you. Just before I kick off, are you happy to share? Do you have the slides in front of you? Cool.
Yep. No problem.
Thank you very much. While the share is happening, I am Mitch, as you just heard, and from the Alana and Madeline Foundation in the eSmart team. My role is the Program Engagement Advisor. So along with Sophie and some other members of the team, I spend a lot of time going out to schools across the country, both primary and secondary, to learn about how they are experiencing technology, what worries them from a student and educator level, what they're really enjoying, and most importantly, what support they need from us in terms of what resources we make. And throughout the next little bit, and I'll try to go quickly so we can get into our workshop, I'm going to tell you a little bit more about some of those resources and offerings that we have for schools at a primary and secondary level. But as mentioned, importantly, at the end of my little spiel at the beginning, we're going to have two kind of workshop offerings. Sophie will be leading the primary resource chat, and I'll be leading the secondary resource chat. So if you have any specific questions about what we offer for primary schools or secondary schools, that is coming in more detail in our follow-up workshop. I will start, of course, by acknowledging that the office of the Alana and Madeline Foundation is actually on Boon Wurrung country. I'm joining from home today on Wurundjeri country. But I think it's really important when thinking about how we keep children safe, that we are lucky enough to be surrounded by cultures that have been doing that well for thousands and thousands of years. So we're not reinventing the wheel here. There's so much to learn from the traditional owners of the lands that we're on in terms of story and learning, and most importantly, how to keep children safe for generations. Thank you. Next slide. Cool. So we are the Alana and Madeline Foundation. Some people might be aware of the Alana and Madeline Foundation, particularly our origin story. We started due to a horrific display of violence, specifically gun violence. And Alana and Madeline's dad, Walter, started this foundation to make sure that children and young people everywhere were kept safe and free from violence and trauma wherever they live, learn, and play. That's where I guess the eSmart and the rest of our prevention programs kind of come in, because as we all know, particularly for the educators on the call, where children particularly live, learn, and play has evolved over time. So our kind of safety interventions also had to evolve as well. So we have a suite of prevention-based programs, including obviously eSmart, to empower positive digital citizens. And I'll go to the next slide to tell you a little bit more about our eSmart team. So at the Alana and Madeline Foundation, eSmart, as I mentioned, works to give schools, educators, and families, really importantly, particularly in the context of today, the tools they need through free. We're really lucky to be free, all of our eSmart products. aligned to the Australian curriculum, and in some cases state-based curriculums and other frameworks of social and emotional learning, like the CASTLE framework, to help students be safe, smart, and responsible in a digital world. And I'll go to the next slide. So today, a focus for us and a focus for the Connection Hub today is obviously on how to engage parents. I wanted to share with you a survey we conducted with 154 parents across the country. And we asked them what worried them about their children's online experiences. Here were the top 10 responses, and I want you to have a quick scan of those responses. So these were the top 10 concerns that parents had about their children's online experiences. And feel free to respond in the chat if anything there is surprising or if anything there is unsurprising, particularly looking at our top few responses there as well. And as you're having a quick scan, I just want to point out that if we start to theme or group some of these responses, you may or may not be aware of Sonia Livingston's organisation of online harms. So we call them at the Alana Madeline Foundation the 4 C's of online risk or online harm. So they're content harms, so the stuff that we see online, conduct harms, how we behave online. We have contact harms, so people who attempt to interact or engage with us online, and compulsion harms. So that's the need to be online as well. And each of these, I guess, worries or concerns actually fit within one of those 4 C's of online risk or harm. And the reason I bring that up is because all of our offerings, programs, resources, activities, lesson plans are organised within those 4 C's. So even what Dan was showing before, we're really lucky to be working with Sunshine College with the digital health check. And Dan was showing an example of one of 4 of our digital health checks, which came under that content digital health check. So that's our number 1 parent worry that we can see there, exposure to inappropriate content as well. Cyberbullying would be a conduct harm, how we behave online. Interactions with others would be a contact harm. And then number 6, imbalance between online and offline activities would be a compulsion harm, so that need to be online. Something else that's really, I guess, important to flag, and I'm sure all of the educators on the call that are working actively with parents, this may or may not come as a surprise. I'm assuming not. But 1 in 4 parents said that they actually lack the confidence in helping their child to navigate these risks. That's something that we're all trying to combat, improve that stat, but the worry about the risks is there, evidently high, but then the confidence to actually respond to those risks is low. And I think something that we found in our engagement with schools and parents is, again, as everyone knows, the I guess, proficiency of students in tech and digital worlds and schools is rapidly improving. You just have to look at some of the things that schools on the call here are up to. It's moving quite quickly, and very, very often parents' digital literacy obviously isn't moving at the same pace. So that kind of chasm that's being created between students really developing a high proficiency in a lot of these spaces and their parents simply not really having the opportunity to develop that proficiency as well may be a key reason that that confidence is low as well. And I know that in conversations I've had with students when trying to get to the bottom of, would you chat to your parent guardian about this particular issue or this? A common response that I've received is, I actually wouldn't, because they wouldn't get it. Like, I'd have to teach them about the thing first, and then, I wouldn't go to them for help because they couldn't help me, that perception. So in saying all that, it's also really important to build the digital literacy skills and confidence in parents to support online safety efforts. And that's something that we've tried to do as a result of these findings and this survey. You can see there on the screen as well that we created DigiTalk, which is an online hub for parents to learn quickly about different areas of online safety and digital literacy, but also to navigate conversations with their young people, with their children, and feel going into those conversations a bit more empowered and a bit more skilled. So I can link that later, but we'll talk about it more in our workshops. But I do recommend going and checking out DigiTalk just to get a sense of some of those articles that are up there, because there are a few. For example, the role that AI can play in helping children thrive, explaining that to parents, decoding privacy, talking points to set up new tech, and finding balance, becoming a screen smart family. There's a whole bunch across all of those risk areas that we've identified and parents have identified on DigiTalk as well. So it's a great resource to share directly with parents. There's an article for everything, and that's in the chat. Thank you, Erin. Okay, I'll move on to the next slide now. Great. So in terms of the relational approach to online safety education, here is, again, at a very zoomed out glance, our kind of response in terms of our offerings and how we navigate that relational approach. So we've split, as you can see here, some key audiences. So we've got young people, parents, schools, and communities. And we've gone and mapped each of our program offerings, each of our resources into those demographics. I will note that obviously there's a lot of interplay by design, but just to briefly go through it before we unpack some of those in more detail. With young people, students, children, young people, some of our offerings there, we have a brand new digital license hub that we went out and co-designed with nearly 1,000 students across the country. At the moment, this is a primary resource that Sophie will be talking more about in that workshop. But essentially, it's a hub where we have a bunch of activities and lesson plans that are organized within those 4 C's of online risk or online harm that educators can go on in their own time, at their own pace, to no cost, and click and deliver those lesson plans within their class. And it's really fun because students get to then go on the digital license journey. You complete 1 lesson per risk area and students leave with a digital license. Baked into those lessons, we have take-home activities. So one approach to kind of, I guess, upskill, keep parents connected that we've identified, ensuring that students are really empowered, engaged in strengths-based and rights-based digital literacy education and digital citizenship education. Empowering students is a key mechanism in bringing parents into the conversation. We want our students and our young people to be able to take the learning home and lead those conversations. That's something that we've learnt, particularly in our co-design, that bringing parents often works best when students feel empowered to bring them in themselves and to lead those conversations. So that's something we've tried to bake in to all of our offerings, is giving students that confidence to take these conversations home and bring their parents in themselves. Okay, you heard a bit about the digital health check as well from Dan. I'll be talking about this more in the secondary workshop coming up later. But again, the digital health check was co-designed with students and educators. And we have what we call a parental support mechanism baked into that health check as well. So we've identified talking prompts, messages to send home to parents before implementing the digital health check, after implementing the digital health check. So key prompts that educators can put on Compass or send directly home or in the newsletter, wherever they think is fit for purpose, to keep parents engaged at every stage of delivering that health check, including afterwards sharing the results as well. Similarly to our primary school initiative, we also have prompts for students to take home. We learnt, and actually the students at Sunshine College, Dan, were very honest with me, which I really appreciated. Similar to your reflection, some of them were like, I am not going to talk to my parents about this. So some of the prompts that we put in are actually for parents to ask their student, ask their child about what they did today, but in a way that positions the child as the expert, the student as the expert. So can you tell me about, what would you do if you were responding to a scare message online, or what would I do if I was responding to a scare message online? So that relational element for us, we've identified it's really, really important to position the student, the child, as the expert, have them lead the conversation, because they are the pillar of whether or not that's successful. As Dan identified, they can shut that down if they want to. They do hold a lot of the power, so let's empower them. Moving along, so I've already mentioned DigiTalk, and that link's in the chat as well. Okay, yeah, thank you. We also have the Beacon app available to parents, which you can check out and send home to parents. That is through Dolly Stream, which is another one of our key program offerings that specifically focuses on kindness, online resilience, and cyberbullying. So parents can check that out too. We, in terms of our relational approach, we have offerings specifically for schools and communities, where we have a whole team, particularly in Victoria, for Victorian schools, that work closely with schools and look at their policies, their procedures, to see how robust or ready they are to respond to any kind of online safety issues, concerns at that more framework policy level. We also try to bring in schools through our Victorian eSmart Schools program to encourage schools to consider the community networks and institutions that sit around the child. So bringing in sporting clubs, culture networks, local libraries, and we're looking at bringing in before and after school care as well into those discussions. So basically, we're trying to, our relational approach, or our approach to that, is positive role modeling at each level, and making sure that no individual kind of demographic here sits in a silo. Each of our program offerings try to bring in each of these different demographics into one e-safety intervention. I forgot to mention at the start, but we are a trusted and endorsed provider by the eSafety Commission to deliver online safety education. So that just means that we've met a bunch of different metrics outlined by the eSafety Commission to be a trusted and endorsed provider of online safety education, which also gives us access to a whole suite of, like orgs and community, online safety community education and upskilling and PD and communities of practice that we also try to bake into all of our offerings as well, to ensure that they stay relevant and best practice. I will go to the next slide, flying through. This is just a recap again of some of our offerings there as well, some of the ones that I spoke about in a little more detail. But I won't go into those too much, because we are about to get into our workshops, our primary workshop and our secondary workshop, to go through some of these products in more detail. So I think I'll leave it there as well, unless Sophie has anything to add. But like I said, our upcoming workshops, I think, will dive into more detail.
So Sophie, I'm not sure if you wanted to contribute anything. We can add your spotlight in for conversation.
No, I think Mitch did an amazing job, describing kind of the holistic approach that we have. So unless anyone has any questions before we go into the smaller group, happy to answer any.
Any thoughts arising for people from some of this information before we go into some smaller group conversations? And
I think the only thing I will add, Nick, is as an eSmart approach, we take a very tech positive approach, and that's one thing that we've evolved, I think, and I think the sector has evolved quite heavily over kind of the last 10 years. I think we kind of went really hard on the harms, and I think what we know from our co-design research is that children were sick of being told about all the dangers, and that they actually love being online and they want to be scaffolded and supported to have really positive digital experiences. So we had quite a big shift in our program and the way that we operate to make sure that, yeah, we really promote that positive tech culture and that positive tech practice. It doesn't mean we don't talk about the harms. They definitely come up in discussion and inquiry and all of those pedagogy models that we use in our lesson plans, but it's not what we go hard in at first. We kind of build that relationship and give children, young people that opportunity to ask questions based on their lived experiences, as opposed to just shoving harms in their face. So, yeah.
Yeah, fantastic. That's a great reflection, and it's certainly a big part of it. Cheryl, jump on in.
Thank you. Hi, Mitch and Sophie. I'm Cheryl McNamara here from a Granville East Public School. I just had a question around, do you find that you need to differentiate your communication or education programs with families based on things like cultural diversity or economic reach or indeed access to technology?
Yes, definitely, very much so. So when we did our co-design, we could see some very big differences, particularly when we looked at the primary school environment. Once we get into secondary schools, children have a lot more self-led digital skill set, so they're kind of using technology in a very different way. In the primary schools, when you look at the life cycle approach of a child coming online, accessing technology, we could really see a huge difference when children are self-selecting and being given phones and being able to build that basic digital skill set, yet conversations around critical thinking and ethical thinking and all those kind of scaffolds that happen around the skill set, we can see look and feel very different depending on your culture. Your parents / caregiver / siblings play a really key role in. A lot of younger children talked about watching their siblings game and what they're doing online, or their role as caregivers in the household, as well as mentors. You know, they listen and learn and see how they're engaging. So yes, a lot of our activities are play-based and discussional based. And so when we work with educators, part of the very first thing we encourage them to do is a bit like the digital health check, and that was how the digital health check came about, is really understand what your children and young people are doing online right here, right now. What are they doing? What are they loving? And what is worrying them? Oh, hi. Because then when you have that same conversation with their parent and their caregiver, you will see a stark difference between what their parent, their caregiver, and in a lot of the cases, their educator as well, thinks they're doing online. And it's about bringing those two spectrums closer together so that they can be better online safety partners for each other. So yeah, I do think that is a critical first step in any journey of thinking about what online safety education looks like across your whole of school community, is really understanding what people are doing here and now and why and what they love and what's worrying them and what supports they need. I love it.